Being a parent of a teenager is never easy, especially in today's fast-paced world with ever-changing technology and media influence. Today's guest is an expert on parenting, Dr. Dave Currie, president of Doing Family Right. He's based in Abbotsford, BC. Welcome to BC, and Dr. Dave.
Hey, it's great to be here, Hal. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
You bet. So, what is Doing Family Right all about?
Well, Doing Family Right is an organization designed to help people with their most important relationships, Hal, marriage, family, and God. And so we realize that kind of life kind of rises and falls with relationships, both vertically and horizontally. And so we just really love helping people see doing marriage and family God's way.
Now, teens get a lot of peer pressure. I mean, it happened when I was a kid, when you were a kid, and even
Yeah.
today. And that can undermine parental influence. How should parents really handle that?
Well, first of all, the most important thing is to continue to have a bona fide real relationship with kids. One of the things that parents make a mistake is as the kid gets older, they say, oh, he's now got more freedom. She's got, she can go on her own. And, it's not like when they were 2 and 4, I had to watch them all the time. And so they think as they get older that it's less time needed. But what happens is it's not less time as they get over, it's just different time. They got to keep finding ways to stay connected. Invariably, Hal, when parents say, oh, our kid's going off the rails, what do we do, Dr. Dave? Can we bring our kid in and you can fix him and all that? I ask them one question. I say, what are you doing with your teen that is either neutral or positive? Means something fun, neutral that they'll accept, or fun that they really want to do. And invariably, all those kids are rebelling because there's no relationship left with the parents. They're not doing anything with their kids. So basically, maintaining a relationship where you have a common ground and having fun and activity together is the best way to do it.
Any practical tips for communication between parents and teenagers? Because a lot of times teens have their own language altogether.
Sure. I think the most important thing is that mom and dad need to be on the same page. One of the most confusing things, if dad's saying A and mom's saying B, then what they'll do is they'll play one against the other, and teens are great at that. They become little lawyers, and they figure I can divide and conquer you guys. And so mom and dad need to get on the same page. And secondly, as they have a common message, I always challenge parents to write down what they want so that there's no misunderstandings, and there's clarity on what curfews are and what phone expectations are. Right off our website, doingfamilyright.com, we have a contract for car driving, a contract for cell phone, and we tell parents, look, the more you can have these talks and actually get kids to hear and sign off on them, the better it is. So clear communications, agreed communication between mom and dad, so there's no way they can get between you. And after that, just again, keep the love going to the kids.
So being unified and creating that structure, I guess, is really key, isn't it?
Yeah, structure and its clarity, Hal. So that if Donalyn, my wife, and I have agreed on what we want for the kids and what we agree the boundaries are going to be on anything, technology or whatever, that we communicate the same message, that we're on the same page. It doesn't matter I'm there, she's there. It's a consistent message, and that's good. And then the structure, we actually had our kids sign off. Now that you're driving the car, every 6 months you got to read this with me. We review it, and you sign off for the next 6 months if you want to use the car. And those kind of things are really helpful. And I just like maybe thinking along the lines of intentional parenting.
Now, Dr. Dave, a recent study came out here on a spike in teen suicides following the release of the Netflix TV series 13 Reasons Why, a graphic show depicting teen suicide. Is it possible that media can influence teens to the degree of even taking their own lives?
Yeah. Sadly, it's happened, and they've shown after a 19-year study of the rises and peaks of a suicide in any given year. It's pretty similar what happens in the months of a year after year, and there's not a lot of change. It's not growing incrementally. But the month after that series first aired, there was a significant spike the month after it was aired, with teenagers taking their lives all over North America and even in Australia and different places, because what happens, the movie kind of glorifies and glamorizes and almost normalizes that if you're going through hard times, this is a natural thing you'll likely do, because you go through difficult things like bullying, or somebody decides to sexually assault you, or you get depressed, or you do some cutting or whatever because you're discouraged. Well, the natural outcome is likely best to take your life. And of course, with all the hype and pretty people in the show, what kid wouldn't think? Well, gee, that's pretty logical. I guess that's a good option. And that's the sad thing about what's happening there.
So don't you think producers of a TV series like that should really be held accountable?
Oh my goodness, don't get me going on that. 100%. Because what's happening, they're saying things like, well, we want to bring awareness. Okay, well, the problem is when you show a graphic depiction of a young woman, 17, taking her life, dying in her own bathtub there, and it was blow by blow, cut by cut, really graphic, and yet at the end, the whole thing is kind of, she's immortalized, memorialized as somebody, who really suffered, and we got to love her, and so post her death, it's almost like she's a poster child, and it really becomes a difficult thing for kids to put this in their head. Well, gee, maybe it isn't that bad. I really feel discouraged. And of course, at different times of their life, most teenagers have thought, is this bad enough to take my life? We all go through despondent times. But when we have media reinforcing it the way it is, and seriously, there's at least 3 different cases where kids, after binge watching this show, took their life as this is the best thing to do.
Yeah, glorifying that is so wrong. You're right, Dr. Dave. Now, what advice would you have for parents as to how to set proper boundaries when it comes to watching television and movies? And how can we really protect our kids without really over-sheltering them?
Well, first of all, it's a really hard thing. And to be honest, Hal, it's less about TV and movies and more about the internet. Because Netflix is an internet-driven thing. Yes, you can watch it on TV, no problem, but you can watch it on your computer. You can watch it on your phone. So it's really talking about the whole digital world, and I call it technological warfare. Right? And how do we prepare our kids for online battle? And so there's really open discussions that have to be there. We need to monitor their internet use. Obviously, going back to TV, but it's way beyond TV. But what things they're watching, and even when it comes to the internet, to have the proper software to protect them from getting to questionable sites, to have filters on, to have actually limiters so that at 10 o'clock at night, that the internet shuts down and nobody can look at anything because Wi-Fi shut off and stuff. And so, those are critical things to keep in mind, just to kind of get started. And we got entire podcasts just on that question, on doing family right. And we'd love to help people with just, here's some great ideas of how to safeguard your home. What do you do if your kid runs into pornography? How do you prevent a kid from being influenced by bullies? All these kind of things that are kind of part of this, this whole thing about 13 reasons. I mean, we've answered those questions over and over to parents.
So how should a parent really respond if their teenager chooses not to follow your media boundaries, and let's say they want to watch this show at a friend's place? Do you really show them maybe some of the statistics of teens who've taken their lives across North America?
Yeah, actually, I think, Hal, we can't control them everywhere. We can do some controls in our house, but they can walk over to a friend's house and go to a cousin's place and whatever, and maybe watch anything. So we obviously need to be checking into who their friends are. But likely the most important thing, Hal, is that all of these issues, all of these things that kids are going to face today, be it peer pressure, be it bullying, being it selfies, being it sending naked pictures, and child pornography concerns, and then watching questionable things, pornography, whatever. All of these things need to be talked about. Parents cannot be chickens. And even having a good sex talk. And I used to tell people for years that you need to have a good sex talk by age 11. Well, the truth is the last 7-8 years I've been saying it has to be age 9. Wow. That you have to have a really thorough, clear sex talk, because the average age that little boys are running into pornography is 9.5 right now. And if we wait till 11 to give them a God-blessed version of what sex is all about, they've already been watching stuff for up to 2 years sometimes. And so we've had kids as young as 7 getting up at night that we've had to hear stories and work with, where they're up at night looking at porn on mom's iPad at age 7, because there hasn't been protections. They've got involved into it. And so parents need to be talking about these things, because you can't control them everywhere. Make sure your house is safe. That's really important. But then you have to have the conversation about all the dangerous topics and give a God-blessed, wise, principled explanation, not just, don't do that, stay away from that. Then it becomes almost like sexy to go do, We have to make sure that we give some reasons and some concerns.
So
and
education is key. Education for the kids is key, absolutely. What degree should parents have a say in who their teenagers hang around with? Is it okay for parents to say no to having a friend who may be a bad influence?
Well, we all want to do that. The problem is, if I simply say, I don't want you to hang around Bill anymore. Bill's bad news. He's likely doing wrong, whatever. Well, my kids will come back and say, well, you're just judging him, Dad. You don't know him. And well, the truth is, I am judging him. I'm judging a face by its color, right? And so it's not fair, but we have to share our concerns. What I have found the secret, because I worked 22 years with high school and college kids, hell, but is the best thing to do if your son or daughter brings home somebody questionable, instead of rejecting them and saying, don't spend all with him anymore. It's bad news. I don't want you to see him anymore and all that. What they do is they just go underground with the relationship. You just don't know about it anymore. And so the best thing to do is to, my story is always about Leroy. I call him Leroy the Lizard. Leroy comes in with a mohawk. He's got, tatties, and he's got earrings and nose rings and nipple rings. And he's just, well, I'm sure he's doing drugs, and what needs to happen is I need to love Leroy the Lizard and let my kid bring him to my house. I need to do my best to be Jesus to this kid, because he likely comes from a gong show family where he needs to see love and something different. And when I do that, then my kid can actually make assessments of whether they want to have Leroy in their life without having to defend him with me, because I've already accepted him. We've had times when we've done that, and the kids, Leroy keeps coming back to visit mom and dad here, and they don't even hang out with our kids anymore. But they felt safe with us, right? And so be careful, parents, because if you simply forbid girl to see this boy, or you can't hang out with these kids, they will just start doing it subversive very often, especially as they get older.
Now, when it comes to social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and so forth, what do parents need to be aware of, and how should the boundaries really be set?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest problems, Hal, is parents get so excited about being wonderfully loved parents by giving their kid a cell phone. And I would argue that if the laws of the land say that you can't get your driver's license to 16, and even after that, you're going to be monitored for 2 years with a letter L or N or whatever, that we as parents should have the courage to say, no, you don't get a cell phone on your own until you're 16. At 14, you can share a phone with me. And at 12, you can use my phone. But if you have a graduated system for licenses, why don't you have a graduated system for phone use? But too many times, kids at 10 and 11 already got their own phone, or they might have their own iPod. Yeah, and they have complete internet access. Remember, kids aren't using phones to talk on the phone. Talk on the phone for the typical teenager doesn't happen anymore. It's all texting. It's all that. And so they need the data, and they want internet access, and that's what drives them. So again, we've got all kinds of coaching on how to talk to kids about digital boundaries and how to hold them. And matter of fact, that's what one of our favorite seminars is: technological warfare, preparing your kids for online battle. And it's all the whole digital world. And so, yeah, it's a great thing to do for parents to talk it through, have a graduated system. Matter of fact, one of the most practical tips might be at say 9:30 at night, every electronic device in the home is now going to be stored and charged on dad's dresser in the bedroom. Nothing's going to be in the room overnight. Why? Because that's when the garbage happens over and over again. That's already been determined. So, well, I need it for my alarm in the morning. Well, here, I'll buy you a clock you can wind up. There's your alarm. Oh, I need to listen to music. Oh, no, we'll give you this to listen to music. Because if they have internet access in the night, they're constantly tempted to, oh, a friend's talking to me, or I'm going to watch this or whatever. And that's where trouble happens. So a centralized charging station is critical.
Hey, you know what? I'm all part of that portable little stereo system that you put on the shoulders. It'll take me back to the 70s and 80s. I love it anyways. That's great. Now, a big part of parenting is the process of really passing your faith onto your kids. How can we do this, Dr. Dave, most effectively?
Well, parents won't like it, what I'm going to say, but it is all on the authenticity of your faith. If they can't see it, feel it, touch it in you, it doesn't matter what you say to them, they won't buy in. Kids have very little chance of becoming what you say, but they have at least a fighting chance, by the help of God, of becoming who you are. So the number one thing for parents, if you want to pass on your faith well, is live an authentic, genuine faith and walk it out day to day. Don't just put on a show on Sundays because the kids see it and they go, this is garbage, this is phony, because dad puts on the show when Pastor Joe is there. But then, on Tuesday morning, dad was just raising Cain, even throwing a few F-bombs around. And well, this faith doesn't make any sense, right? And this is where we've got to challenge parents to live their faith on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and let God help them lead with a soft heart where God is leading through his love. If we have grace-based parenting instead of guilt-based parenting, it'll change everything.
Practice what you preach. Now, we have a lot of broken families out there today. Is there any special advice you have for single parents and how to really relate well to their teenagers?
Yeah. First of all, my heart goes out to any single parent. It's a hard thing to do. It's a challenging thing to be solo, and always wise to try to bring in brothers, cousins, uncles, dads to help support those men and women who are single parents. That's really critical. But beyond that, help them realize that the same principles that a two-parent family would have is still true for them. Harder to do because they're doing it by themselves, although they don't have to fight over their rules because they just set them themselves. So, in one sense, it's easier because they're not fighting with their spouse about what we're going to do. But at the same token, it's really critical for them to believe, though they're working alone, the principles are still the same. Okay?
Dr. David Currie, president of Doing Family Right, thanks a lot for joining me today from Abbotsford, British Columbia.
God bless you. Thanks so much, Hal.